What's up, y'all? If you can hear, say persevere. If you can hear, say persevere. I want to also thank Ms. Primer for just being so kind and generous when she saw me. This was back in the fall. She reached out, and her and Abby have been fantastic to work with. So thank both of you. Thank Amy for allowing me this opportunity to be here. So y'all give it up for them, because without them, this is not possible. All right, now if you can hear, say persevere. Can I be real with y'all today? I can be real with y'all today? I'm gonna tell y'all, look, perseverance is a big part of my life. Like, I done been through a lot of hard stuff, but it was a time in my life where I felt like I couldn't persevere anymore, right? I had fought all the battles, I had fought all the fights, and I was like, listen, this is too much. This is too much. Because I found myself crying, balled up in a fetal position on a hardwood floor, just crying my eyes out. My wife was there trying to console me. I just had this little puppy. I was sitting there trying to hold it, trying to figure out where I was in life, why I was feeling the way that I was feeling. I was bombarded by every emotion you can think of, right? There were moments of being happy, but then it was like all this depression hit in. And then there was moments of extreme grief. There was moments of anxiety. I live with PTSD, and so my triggers were surrounding me, and it was so hard. And I'm sitting there, and I'm on the ground, and I'm trying to ask myself, why am I right here? How in the world did you end up on the ground? My journey since that day, and y'all, I'm telling you, I'm gonna be real with y'all. This wasn't that long ago. It was in 2019. 2019. My journey since that day has been trying to figure out the answer to that question. Right, and it goes way, 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 way back. You see, I was born in Nashville, Tennessee. That's home, still home. I've been there my entire life. Nashville's a cool place. I was just talking to the principal of the high school, and we were talking about Nashville. He visited Nashville recently, and it's a fun place to be, known for country music, known for hot chicken and all of that, but the part of town that I grew up on was a little different. I grew up on a town plagued by poverty, overwhelmed with violence. I was born into too close proximity to gangs and drug abuse and drug use. It was tough. You know, I look around at some of y'all's faces, and there's some faces in here that are probably younger than my mother was when she had me at 14. Right? You know, my mom conceived me, right, at 13 years old, at a time in our country where the teen pregnancy rate was at an all-time high. And I look at these numbers and I look at these statistics, and I'm like, I'm one of those. But one thing I never wanted to be was defined by statistics, was defined by the adversity. Another thing, my dad spent most of my childhood with his back turned to me. Right? I put a different shirt on today. So if you see my back, it's gonna give you a positive message. But every time I saw my dad's back, he was doing this. He was dropping off a pair of shoes, headed out the door. He was giving me a video game, headed out the door. He chose the streets. That was the life that he lived. That was the things that he loved to do. So I didn't feel that connection with him. And to be honest, even though my mom was there at all times, she was there, she held it down, emotionally, I wasn't connected to her either. Again, like when you think about a 14-year-old having a child, it comes with a lot of trauma. Comes with a lot of hard things that happen in life. And so how she was taught to love and be loved wasn't necessarily a healthy way. And so how she showed that love was hard. It was hard. But I had to endure that. But I applaud my mom. I applaud my mom because she knew the importance of education. She dropped out of school to raise me, but she knew that education was going to be the key for me having a different life. For me being in a different position, for me not having to have the same cycles of poverty, the same cycles of stress and trauma and abuse that she had experienced. And so she emphasized it. She emphasized it real, real strong, I'm telling you. Do your homework. I did my homework. Do it again. It was hard, y'all, I'm telling you. And if I didn't comply, Another form of my trauma that we didn't necessarily call trauma back in the day, but it came with punishment. It came with physical punishment. Things that aren't necessarily allowed today in our society, but that was the way we raised kids. And I think about some of those scars and some of those bruises and how physically they wore on me, but emotionally they wore on me as well. But through her strength, through my strength, my tenacity, the things that we did together, I was able to excel in education early on. That led me to this organization in Nashville. It's called Backfield in Motion. And I love the help and the support and the work of nonprofits like Refuse to Sink, because Backfield in Motion was a nonprofit with a mission of helping inner city kids who didn't have resources to play the game of football, a love of mine. Play the game of football without the barriers that come with that. Being able to afford pads, transportation, equipment, all the stuff that came with that. It eliminated those costs. And it also provided food. Gave me rides to and from games, gave me rides to and from practice. And then on top of all that, it emphasized education, just like my mom. And so football was the hook to get kids like me who always wanted to play in the league into an organization that was going to emphasize that education. And so I got into this league, and it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. I remember playing my first year. I had no idea how to actually play organized football. I knew how to throw, but when it came to throwing a pass for a person down the field, I had to be taught how to lead a receiver, how to do all those different things. But it opened my eyes to so much. Right, my first year, I played in an all-star game at Vanderbilt University. And in that all-star game, right before the game, we got to meet some of the players. And actually, that same game, we played Florida. So not too far away from here, it was Vanderbilt versus Florida. And I got to meet so many players. I'm looking up and I'm idolizing these dudes. And I made a decision there when I was 10 years old. I'm gonna play here one day. I'm gonna play at Vanderbilt. I don't know, it was just hometown. It was my hometown, right? Some of y'all probably have dreams of playing at Florida, playing at Miami, playing at FSU, playing at UCF, right? It was like, I gotta be there. I gotta be there. And on top of that, right, the education and the academic aspect of it all, that was the piece that really changed my life forever. Because a lot of the tutors, teachers that would help out with the program, they were at a school kind of like this one. I was growing up, I was going to public school, surrounded by people that had that same normal lifestyle that I had normalized. All the things that we experienced, it was just everyday life. You know, we had kids pass away before they were able to drive. We just got up and went to school, right? It was hard sometimes coming to school with an empty stomach and being told to focus on your work when all you want to do is eat. It was difficult. And so I'm coming from a school like that, but I was introduced to a school with so many resources, so many things to offer. It's called Montgomery Bell Academy, MBA. If you're ever in Nashville, go check it out. The campus is unreal. And so through the program, they found out that I'm a bright student, that I could do the work. They want me to come to this school. And it's hard, y'all. I get to campus for the first time for a football game, and I'm walking around and I just see swarms of people. And it's just like the support, the overwhelming support for the Cardinal and Silver, it was unreal. I was like, I gotta get a taste of this. You know, I set a goal for myself, right? Just like that goal of I wanna play at Vanderbilt. I set a goal for myself after that game because I got a program that day. The program was of the seniors of that class, and it had all the people on the team and, you know, stats and history about the team. I took that program and I put it in the binder, or in the cover of my binder. And I had it in the cover of my binder for 3 years. It was torn up, it was beat up, it was all that, but I kept saying, I'm gonna be on the cover of this one day. Setting goals, sticking to those goals, living your life in pursuit of those goals. And so guess what? 8th grade comes around, I'm enrolling at that school. Life-changing experience. Life-changing. But it was one of the greatest culture shocks in my life. Some of y'all might recognize that. understand what it's like to go from a world over here where you don't see normal the same way that other people see normal, and not that either normal is wrong or right, but they're just different. Or you may experience life like that, especially when you get into the real world. The world is going to be vast, it's going to be diverse, it's going to be a whole bunch of different things thrown at you. You're going to have to adapt. And so I'm walking into this school and I look up and this BMWs. I've never seen a BMW just pull up and see the person that gets out of that and be able to talk to that person in my life. Range Rovers, Mercedes Benz. You know what I pulled up in? This year, it was probably 2004, I want to say. I pulled up in a 1988 Buick in 2004. It was old. The key didn't open the door, couldn't lock it. People stole our radio, couldn't open the trunk. I paid for that car working the summer before that, because me and my mom, we didn't have a car before that. But I needed something to get to and from the school because we didn't have a busing system. So I pulled up in that car, and not to mention, I didn't come from the mansions, and we have something similar to Belle Glade. We had something called Belle Meade. Belle Meade is some of the richest families, some of the biggest homes in Nashville. I didn't come from those homes. No, I came from a couch in the projects, because me and my mom, we were in transition. We were trying to figure out where we were going to be next. So here I am, coming from a couch in the projects, getting into this 88 Buick, driving all the way across town, come to a place kind of like this. It was a culture shock, y'all. Sometimes when I spoke, people would just stare at me. You ever just had somebody stare at you and you said something, you're like, did you understand me? And they're like, I have no idea what you said. It's infuriating. Especially, I can talk now and I can be a public speaker, but back then I was so shy, y'all. I was so shy, I was so timid, I didn't want anybody to bring any attention to me, which makes this, it's crazy to think that I'm up here doing this right now, telling this story even. I was that shy. And I get to this school and it's hard. It's hard, not academically, because it's a rigorous academics, but it was mostly hard because of the culture and the social part, right? Because I came in from a school where 98% of all my students, again, came from similar backgrounds. They were black, they were from poverty, they were from the same upbringings. They had similar experiences with their dad, with their mom, to a place where that was not the norm. It challenged my perception of normal. And I'm there and I get there and I'm like, I can do this work, that's nothing, but y'all, I ain't got nobody to talk to. They don't understand the references that I make about the TV shows that I watch, about the music that I listen to, about the clothes that I wear. They don't understand that, and I don't understand them. But man, they're telling me this is a great experience. This is a great opportunity for me. I don't know, because inside, man, it feels like I'm dying. Every day I'm having to take off this mask, put this mask back on, drive across town, go back and forth. Some days I might have to catch the bus. It's hard. So I get to the end of my 8th grade year and I'm like, I'm done with this. I'm going back to public school. I know I'm gonna be a good student. I'm gonna stay out of trouble. I'm gonna do all the things right. As soon as I do that, I call one of my buddies who I had gotten close to a handful of folks that first year. I call one of my buddies, Joe Sloan. I called Joe. I'm like, hey, bro, I love you, man. I appreciate all the support, all the help you and your family have done for me, but I gotta go back. I'm going to Overton. I'm going to Hillsboro. I got to get out of here. He's like, all right, man, I hope to see you in basketball season. Cool. I hang up. Not 5 minutes go by. Joe's mom calls, hello? Oh, no, you can't leave. Please don't leave. Please come back. Please come back. Can we talk? Can we talk? I don't want to, Miss Marshall. I'm sorry. Mr. Sloan calls. Hello? Reggie, can I come see you? Fine. He pulls up. We sit in his car and we talk. We talk for a really long time. And I remember, like, this is a big old dude, probably like 6'3", stoic, just barely shows any emotion. Big old former football player, pilot. He was a big dude. And he's like, just breaking out crying. And I'm sitting there like, why is this grown man crying at where this 9th grader chooses to go to school? And it makes sense to me. Right, and what did I do? In my head, I'm thinking, Here it is, this private school got me, cherry-picked me so that they can win championships. I see championships across the top of this so that they can use me for my athletic ability. That's all that was going through my mind. But Mr. Sloan said something that day that changed my perspective forever. He said, tears pouring down his face. He said, Reggie, my son's life is better with you in it. This school is a better place because you are here, right? You add value to this place. Your diversity, your uniqueness, what you bring, your background, all the different things that make you, you, that's what we need here. We don't need a replica of each and every person. We don't need the same backstories. We don't need the same background. We need your diversity. We need your uniqueness. Your uniqueness matters. You matter. And I had never heard that before. To that point, I had never heard that because for so long, right? I'm the kid from the hood. I'm the kid from the hood with no money. I'm getting this opportunity. I'm the charity case. They're helping me out. They're adding value. They're adding value. They're adding value. No one ever stopped to say you're adding value until that day. I want to say that to y'all. Each and every one of you, you are adding value. You matter. The way that you show up, the differences that you bring to the table, the things that you may have some shame about because they're a little different from the people around you, no. Those are the things that we highlight and celebrate. Those are the things that make this world a better place, our communities a better place. When he told me that, I was like, I'm coming. I'm back. Let's go. I know that. It instills something in me like, yes, I have confidence now because for a long time, it was inferiority. It was inferiority. I don't have the things that they have. They're making jokes about me. I can't show up and be that way. I felt bad about myself just showing up to school. So let me at least be by people who I can at least be even with. But he told me that and it changed something in me. And I hope that sticks with you. I hope that sticks with you. I come back. High school was a totally different ball game, right? I went from being the only black student in my class. They added a couple more, and then I got to meet some amazing people. I got to meet a whole bunch of friends who are still my best friends to this day, that being one of them. I love that man to death. That man will ride and die with me. I appreciate him. Like, I probably wouldn't be in this place, in this position right now if it wasn't for that man right there. So whenever y'all see me, y'all think about the people that helped shape me, that's one of them. Y'all give it up for my man D, y'all. Coming back to school, things change. You know, I'm feeling good about myself. Playing ball, playing football, basketball, running track. I'm in the chorus. I'm doing art. I'm playing instruments. I'm doing all kinds of stuff, right? It awarded me the school's ideal, gentleman, scholar, athlete. Right? That was one of the prototypical students that came from the school. I got the Gentleman Scholar Athlete Award. And what came with that? That came with a lot of interest to go to all these different schools across the country. All these different schools across the country. We had Harvard at the top of the list. We had Yale, we had Penn, we had Stanford. All of these. Brown wanted me to come in. It's just like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm just a little kid from the hood. I ain't supposed to be talking to these people. That's weird to me. And in the back of my mind, I got to make another transition into another environment that is just so overwhelming. Again, I told y'all that was one of the things that made me feel like I was going to die inside. I don't know if I can do that. So I self-sabotaged. Started trying to do bad on my standardized tests, which I do not encourage. Don't be your biggest enemy. Don't do it. Right? There's enough people out there that are going to hate. There's enough people out there that are going to be naysayers. You do not need to be one of those. You got to be your biggest fan. You got to be your biggest supporter through it all. Right? We have something called negativity bias. Negativity bias was an adaptive psychological thing that used to help protect us, right? It helped remember the bad things that were happening because as cavemen, right, walking through and we see a bush rustling over there, what is that? It might be a bear, it may be a tiger, I might have to run. I have to remember that scary thing. I have to remember the negative things. But the thing is, our brain didn't adapt and evolve in a way to distinguish between that bush and just everyday life. And so when someone says something and we automatically make it negative about ourselves, That's normal, that's natural. But I challenge you all to challenge that thought. Challenge that thought with something positive. Challenge that thought, replace that thought with something that is counter to that. If it's like, man, I ain't never gonna be good enough. No, I am good enough. Everybody say, I am good enough. I am worthy. I am enough. Yes, you are. Just the way you are. Right? I want you to realize and remember that, because you're going to have thoughts, and you probably have thoughts daily. When you look in the mirror, you probably have thoughts about your physical appearance. When you take off running, you probably have thoughts about your physical activity, your physical fitness, right? When you eat, you probably say, man, I probably shouldn't be eating this. I'm doing terrible. Like, stop talking to yourself negatively. You are going to talk to yourself more than anybody else, more than your parents, more than your friends, more than your teachers. They're talking to you, but you are going to talk to yourself in the form of thought every single day, all day long, even when you're asleep. And you have to reprogram those thoughts. You have to reprogram those thoughts so that you can accomplish whatever it is that you want to set your mind to. That's something that I did, right? I set my mind to something. I was like, I'm going to do it. And so what did I tell myself when I was 10 years old? I told myself, I want to go to Vanderbilt University. I'm going to play here one day. So Harvard, Yale, Penn, Stanford, I'm sorry, but I got to go here. I already made a promise to myself. And that's where I went. I had to, right? I self-sabotaged on the SATs and ACTs, so I had to go take those again and give my full effort. And I did that because I had my mission in place. I took those. I got into Vanderbilt University. As an academic student alone, I didn't have this athletic scholarship because they weren't looking at me for that. But when I got to campus, I was like, man, being a student is fun, but like being a student athlete, that's what I know. That's who I am at my heart. That's what I want to do. So I go and I walk on and I start playing for the football team. Some of the worst and best years of football I ever had in my life. Y'all know Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is usually at the bottom, scraping the pot, at the bottom of the pot of the SEC. And that's what it was my first year, y'all. 2-10. Oof. I just came from winning state championships. We 2-10, and people are laughing, and people are joking, and people are going out and partying. I'm like, nah, man, I'm mad. I'm angry right now. Next year, 2-10. Come on, y'all. We can't do this. We can't do this. Look, I had a dream when I was 10. It wasn't to be 4-20 in 2 years, y'all. I'm not doing that. Coaching staff is fired. I love y'all, but bye. Next year, James Franklin comes to town. Young, energetic, a player's coach. This man could sell Raid to a bug. I'm telling you, this man was a salesman. He was the best coach I've ever had in my entire life. He came in and he turned the program around. He didn't just turn the program around. He didn't just turn the athletic department around. He turned the entire city around to support Vanderbilt football. It was amazing to see what he did and what the transformation he had overnight. Overnight, we went from going 2-10 to going to bowl games, right? Going and winning bowl games was an amazing thing. It's like, yes, this is what I came here for, but was it? My mom emphasized education. Backfield in Motion emphasized education. Came here on an academic scholarship, putting all my energy into football. I lost my mission. I lost my purpose because this game has been a huge part of my life. I love it. I love it. But it's not why I'm here ultimately. But I was studying economics, finance, accounting, and that's why I was here. I was here to go out. I thought I was going to be a business owner. I didn't know what that meant. I was just going to be a business owner. That's what I told people. Instead of saying economics, I studied hustlenomics. That's what I told them because I came from the hood, right? We hustling. And so I had to make a decision, a big decision. The decision was, I'm not going to play my senior year because I got to focus. I got to focus on life after ball. What is it going to look like? Because I don't know. Honestly, I didn't know what none of this path was going to look like because after 9th grade, I was paving the way for myself. My parents, they didn't graduate from high school. My grandparents, they didn't have that knowledge for me. They couldn't tell me what 10th grade was going to look like. They couldn't tell me what physics and algebra 2 and all of that was going to look like. I was learning all this on my own. I had to do all my homework on my own. I couldn't go for those. I didn't have that resource at home. So college, that's a whole nother ball game. What's going to happen after that? I don't know. I don't have role models that I looked up to. Right? I had people who I didn't want to be like. Right? I had 3 goals when I was a child. Those 3 goals were not to have a child before I was 14, right? That felt like a sense of pride for me to just, I'm gonna be a little bit older than my mom was when she had me, if I have a kid at all. That next goal was to never go to prison. My pops eventually went to prison, and that ripped my heart out. It ripped my heart out. And I knew the pain that caused, not just me, but his mom, my brothers, my family, the community. I knew that pain, and I didn't want that pain on anybody. And so I said, I'm not gonna have a child before 14. I'm not gonna go to prison, and I'm gonna graduate from high school. That was all I had, y'all. That was all I had. And so when I got to college, dang, I didn't have goals this high. I didn't have goals about working in Wall Street. I didn't have goals about what I was gonna do for a career or whatever that was gonna look like. And so I got back into school and asking people and trying to network and meet as many people as I could. Ask them what they do. What does your mom do? What does your dad do? Oh, cool, what does that mean? Because a lot of words they were talking, but like wealth and management, I don't know what that means. So I went back to school after I graduated and got a master's degree from the business school. Master's degree led me into a career of accounting as a CPA, certified public accountant. I didn't know what that meant back then. If you don't know what that means, I work with numbers. In the role that I was in, I actually worked with big Fortune 500 companies, making sure that when investors and people who utilize those numbers to invest money and grow their money, that they could rely on those numbers, right? These companies aren't just lying because they have companies like mine verifying those numbers, right? And that sounds fun, it sounds cool, right? Looking at billions and billions of dollars, but that wasn't the work that truly lit me up. I've been saying this quote, and the quote, it changed the way that I looked at that. It was a quote by Steve Jobs. And it said, work is gonna fill a large part of your life. And the only way to truly be satisfied is to do what you think is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. You gotta love what you do. That's passion, y'all. And if you haven't found it yet, don't worry. Don't settle. Because with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you found it. Yo, I read that quote and I went into the office the next day and I typed this email that started off, "To all my fans, I'm out." That was how vain I was. That's how much I was into myself back then. I was like, man, who did I think I was? But I wrote that without any plans for what I was gonna be doing after that. And I quit. I quit. That's a millennial trait, y'all. They make fun of us for that, but y'all do not go out and do that. Have plans for yourself. Have plans for yourself, but also at the same time, believe in yourself. One thing about me is I always believed that I could do it. If it's something out there that can be done, I can do it, right? If somebody's done it before, I could do it. Because my mind is strong. Your mind is strong. Your mind can do anything that you set it to. So I left that company and I'm asking around again, going back to the networking, going back to asking people, what do you do? How do you do it? Can I come do it? Found myself in wealth management. What do those words mean? Right? Helping invest money for other people, helping grow money for other people and getting paid for that service. Telling people, hey, maybe you don't spend that much money. Maybe you put it over here. Maybe you do that. That's fun. Be a little bossy. I could tell people, hey, that's not right. So that's cool. I like that. That's something that I never learned and probably would have never learned coming from the background that I came from. So I was into that. I loved it. I worked at this company day in and day out like a sponge. I absorbed every single thing, right? That's another thing, right? Take every opportunity that you can to learn a lesson, right? Even if you think it's a failure, even if you think you have messed up in some way, right? Most mess ups in life are recoverable, right? You can recover from them. You can redeem yourself from them. Like there are very few that are just gonna be the end all be all, right? We know a couple of those things, but like very few of them are like, man, I messed up on a test, I messed up in class, I messed up. That's not gonna be the end of the world. Learn from that so that the next time that opportunity comes up to do something different, you do it differently, right? And then you may trip again, but every time you trip, it's an opportunity to learn and get back up. Learn and get back up. So I'm sitting there at this wealth management company, I'm soaking it all in. I'm a sponge. I'm asking all the questions that I want to. I'm asking everything to everybody. These are folks who have had generational wealth for years and years and years and years. And I'm like, man, I come from generational poverty. I come from generational trauma. I'm trying to change that. I want to know what you know. Let me learn what you got. Thank you. I appreciate you. I'm going to go apply this to someone. And so I took all of that knowledge that I got, and I was like, man, I want to start a company. Right? I told you I wanted to be a business owner. I didn't know what that meant, but I wanted to do it. So I started a company in wealth management, and I called it Rose Creek Wealth Management. And the name derives itself from the rose that grew from a crack in the concrete. Through all the perceived impossibilities, the poor soil, little light, no water, that rose, it grows. Everybody say, I am the rose. I am the rose. Now say it like you mean it. I am the rose. I am the rose. Yes, you are the rose, because we all face adversity in life, right? It may be big T trauma, it may be little T trauma, it may be a little hiccup here, it may be a little hiccup there, it may be something big, but we all face adversity in life. And you're not defined by that adversity, you're not defined by that past, you're not defined by those mistakes. You're defined by how you get up, how you how your resilience kicks in and you persevere through those hard times, right? How you treat people, those are the things that you're defined by, right? You're defined by your values, right? If you haven't thought about what my values are in life, take some time to sit down. Maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe it's 10 minutes, maybe it's 2 hours. Maybe you get together with a group of people and say, man, what are our values? What do we truly want out of life, right? Those are the things that you're defined by. You're not defined by the adversity, right? That rose that grew from a crack in the concrete, we look at it and we say, man, it may have some damaged petals. It may be leaning to the side. It has some blemishes, but we don't downgrade that rose because of that. We uplift it. We say, wow, how did that rose come out of that concrete? It's crazy, y'all. Since I started this company, people send me flowers growing out of concrete. They send me roses growing out of concrete all the time, and I love it. It's just a reminder of all the things, all the adversity that we've overcome collectively. So I started that company initially, right? I wanted to be back involved with sports, right? You can be, and if somebody out here wants to be an athlete, a pro athlete, or somebody wants to be in sport, right? You don't have to be on the field. You don't have to be on the court. You don't have to be on the track to be involved in sports. I worked in finance and I was involved in sports, working with professional athletes, managing their money. It was fun, right? Part of my job was to go to the combine, was to go to games. It was fun. It was exhausting at the same time, right? That's work. But I built this company, and then it turned into some amazing things that started some of the things that Miss Abby talked about earlier, right? Top 100 in finance, nominated Forbes 30 under 30. What? I'm just a kid from the hood. What is all this? And then, right, I'm sitting here, Nashville Business Journal, they're calling me, they want to do an interview, and then I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. I'm getting congratulated from all these different people in my life. They're saying, yes, you're so amazing. I love what you do. Can you come over here? Can you do this? Can you do that? And then I find myself laying on that cold hardwood floor, crying my eyes out. My wife was right there trying to console me as this puppy right here was trying to console me, speaking incoherently. Emotions up and down all around. I'm asking myself, how in the world did you end up here? You did all these things right. You did what they told you to do. You didn't get in trouble. You didn't do drugs. You didn't go to prison. You did that. You accomplished those goals. Why in the world are you right here? Y'all want to know the answer? Y'all want to know the answer? Somebody said, no, I'm sorry, but you're going to hear it. Man, it was a life of unaddressed trauma. Y'all, let me point something out too, right? So many of y'all say yes, and I heard that no. What did I talk about earlier? That negativity bias. It's real, y'all, right? I can get applause from everybody in here but one person. I'm going to be like, man, that one person didn't. Negativity bias, even me. I still go through it, right? I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all so much, right? But the reason I was on that ground, unaddressed trauma from my childhood, unaddressed trauma from my young adulthood, right? I took that pain that I was experiencing and I bottled it up and I used it as fuel to keep going, right? My trauma response was work. My trauma response was to go 24/7. My trauma response was to do things that other people hadn't done before. My trauma response was to be a perfectionist. My trauma response was applauded by the world. That was my trauma response. And it caught up to me. It caught up to me, right? I study and I'm certified in this thing called adverse childhood experiences. Adverse childhood experiences looks at the trauma that you experienced before your 18th birthday, right? From physical to emotional, sexual, all of these different types of traumas that you may experience. And there's a questionnaire with 10 questions, and I'm sitting there and I get this when I'm in college. I'm finally learning out about this, like, dang, I really had a traumatic life. I didn't realize that. This was just everyday life, right? That's how things are supposed to be. How many times do we look at life and say, that's just how it is, right? That's how it's supposed to be. But no, my normal was traumatic. I check the box. 1 question, check. 2 question, check. 3 question. I get all the way down to the bottom. I got 10 out of 10 on here. Okay, so what does that mean, right? It means I had a traumatic past, but what else? What does that correlate to? This study done by the CDC, they look at it and they say the trauma that you experienced before your 18th birthday, it has a negative impact on your health and your life down the line, right? You're at a greater risk of heart disease. You're at a greater risk of lung disease. You're at a greater risk of suicidality because of trauma that you experienced when you were a child, things that you had no control over, right? Not only does it have a negative impact on your physical health, it has a negative impact on your mental health. It has a negative impact on the way that you have social interactions with people, right? You always feel that somebody is talking negatively about you again, right? I had to hear the no out of all these beautiful yeses because of my trauma, right? I have to address this. I have to address this so that I can be in loving relationships with people, right? We butted heads plenty of times because we both come from traumatic backgrounds, and sometimes we want to knuckle up. Right, but we have to fight past that because we have love, so much love. How do you do that? That was the question. I didn't know. I had no example of how to deal with my mental health. Absolutely no example. Nobody talked about therapy. If they did, it was in a negative way. That's for crazy people. I don't use that word. There are no crazy people. There are people. We all go through stuff. There are people who have gone through some healing process. There are people who haven't. And so I started to try to figure it out for myself. I went to my doctor. I was like, I need help. I went to a counselor, a grief counselor, because I had lost some of the most significant people in my life. And I was like, I need help. Going to grief counseling seemed like an easier transition into therapy for me because, you know, everybody's going to cry when Big Mama dies, right? My grandma just passed. That's the most nurturing person in my life. That's okay. People ain't gonna call me soft for that. Why do we have that association with getting help and being soft? We're human. We come in this world needing help. If nobody got help, we would not be here today, right? If your parent or your caretaker or your guardian didn't help you, you would not survive. And that help doesn't just stop when you're a baby. It continues throughout your life. We all need help in different forms. Sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's mental, sometimes it's spiritual, sometimes it's social, financial. We all need help in different aspects of our lives. So I'm here, I'm trying to do every form of therapy I can think of, right? I've done CBT, right? Cognitive behavioral therapy, trying to reprogram those thoughts and where my brain goes, trying to break those negative associations, right? I've done EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy, right? That's where I'm doing my eyes back and forth, or I'm patting my shoulder side to side, because they found that studies show that when you do this bilateral movement and then process memories, you can reprogram those things, right? I've done psychodrama where I sit there and I'm acting out my experience and my trauma so that I can rewrite the ending to it all. Right? I've done so many forms of therapy that I had no clue about. And that's why I talk and do what I do, so that people can understand that the healing process, it can happen. It can happen. Since that day in 2019, y'all, I'm a totally different person. I'm a totally different person. I'm so proud and I'm so happy for myself to be here in this position, right? To share my story as a testimony to you all. And then what did I do? I took all of that experience, both the negative and the positive and the healing and all that, and I put it in a book. Never intended on putting it in a book, but it was my way of dealing with my trauma for a long time. I wrote music, I wrote poems, wrote short stories, and it just all culminated one day and became a book called Perseverance Through Severe Dysfunction, PTSD. I remember I was talking about rewiring those negative aspects of your life. PTSD is normally what? Post-traumatic stress disorder. But no, I'm not gonna be defined by my trauma. I'm gonna be defined by how I respond to that trauma, my perseverance. So I wrote the book, Perseverance, Breaking the Cycle of Intergenerational Trauma as a Black man in America. The people before me, they didn't have resources and access to these things. I have this knowledge, I have this access, I need to share it. I need to share it so other people can heal. I need to share it because this is a form of my therapy and it's helping me heal. And so it's doing wonders in my life. In that book, I talk about something that's called the process of perseverance. The process of perseverance is from pain to passion, passion to purpose, purpose to power, power to peace, right? Taking the pain that I experience, how do I convert that into peace? That's what we're ultimately searching for, right? We do all the things in our world, in our life for peace and happiness. That's what I'm searching for. So how do I take the pain, turn it into passion? Because that's a burning desire to stop that pain for myself and for others. Turn that passion, because passion can be both positive and negative, especially if you've had negative experiences. Turn that passion into purpose. Purpose is giving it a guiding principle, something positive to look forward to. Is my why. Why do I get up? Why do I try to change lives every single day with the work that I do? And then the power. Power is instilled in me. I stand in my power because I did everything that I need to stand up here and say, you can't challenge me on why I'm doing what I'm doing. You can't, right? I put in the work. I went to the school. I did all the things. I did all the therapy. So when I get up and say something, when I get up and do the work that I'm passionate about, you're going to understand why, because I stand in my power. And when you put all those things together, you find the peace. You find the peace. And that's what we're ultimately searching for in life, y'all. Because right now is all we have. Because the past no longer exists. And the future, it never was. So right now, this is it. They ask me why I do what I do, and this is what I tell them. I get on stages and I talk about my pain so that nobody has to feel them. Because the pain from my past does not dictate the present. And the fear of the future only worries me if I let it. All I have is now, a moment to share with you, to tell you about my past and all the things I went through. Abused and neglected, yeah, it's a lot that's hurt me. But I rise above it and you can too. Just keep working. Take your losses and turn them into lessons. Give grace and give back. That's the way to many blessings. Speak with conviction and love with no conditions. Stand tall, stand proud, and unlearn unhealthy traditions. Follow your passion and believe in your vision. Fall in love with the process and stay firm in your intentions. And trust that the results will be a byproduct of the work. And don't bottle up emotions. Please don't bottle up emotions, because as we know, bottles can burst. Create the life you choose to live. Surround yourself with those you love. Give thanks for every breath. And linger with every hug. Because all we have is now. This moment, this day. Spread light and love everywhere you go. And tell people that's the Glazed Day way. Now before I go, I want to hear something loud and clear. When I say as long as I'm here, you say I'll persevere. As long as I'm here, I'll persevere. As long as I'm here, I'll persevere. As long as I'm here, I'll persevere. I appreciate y'all. Y'all go do amazing things. Yes. Questions?
How did your mom react to everything at the end? Like when she saw how you are now?
Me and my mom don't have a relationship. That's a great question. Me and my mom haven't had a relationship since 2019. As a part of that grief that I experienced of losing some people in my life. Some of those people to death, some of those people to estrangement, meaning we don't have a relationship anymore. I love her to death. And so honestly, it's been hard. It's been real hard to experience the life that I'm living, to experience the healing that I'm living, and know that there's a lot of pain still in her past that's haunting her, and it's affecting our relationship. And so, you know, one thing that for me, for my health and my well-being, I had to put up a boundary, because emotionally, we just didn't click. And how she treated me emotionally, physically at times, it wasn't healthy. And so I had to put up that boundary, and I keep the door open every day, because I love a relationship to be back. And but that's where we are.
Are you planning on having kids?
Are you planning on having kids? It may seem like a simple question, but it's a deep one. And I address it in the book, right? Because my book talks about intergenerational trauma. I talk about generations up, but then it's me. What about the generations down? And so in the book, I have a letter to my unborn child. A letter to my unborn child. And no, I don't have a child on the way, but it was in case there ever was one. And it talks about how difficult it is for me right now to even fathom that reality. to bring a child into the world having experienced what I've experienced in my life. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I go to therapy, y'all. I see my wife and she wants to have kids and I'm like, man, I gotta give her that blessing. I wanna give her that blessing, but I don't wanna do it if I'm going to be hurt so bad about it. And so I go to therapy and most of the time that's what I'm talking about. And so, God willing, maybe. Yes, how did you go from writing that book to being here in front of us? When I wrote the book, I wanted to promote it. And so I was asking everybody, anybody, radio shows, podcasts, can I be on there? Can I talk about it? And when I started talking about my story, it was inspiring to people, just telling the process of me writing it, just telling the things that I had overcome. And for a lot of people who had already known me, they didn't know that part of my life. They knew the resume. They knew the social media part. Right, and social media is just a highlight reel of people's lives. Please, y'all, don't compare yourself to somebody's social media reel. Please don't, because your life is practice. Your life is the practice film where you miss tackles. Your life is the hard things, the ups, downs, the everything, and all you're seeing is when they go on trips, is when they have a good day, is when they go out for a fancy dinner. And so I started sharing my story on podcasts and social media in different places. And before I knew it, I got invited to be a keynote speaker at a very prominent organization. And since then, that's what I've been doing. What position did I play? I mean, throughout my life, I played all skill positions. So I played quarterback, I played running back, receiver. I played all those, but in college, I played what they call butt back. Butt back is when you run on the field and coach is like, get your butt back. Like, so I didn't play much in college, y'all. I was a great athlete, still am a great athlete, but I played cornerback and punt returner. Yes, ma'am. My favorite subject while I was at Vanderbilt, psychology. I came into college thinking I was gonna major in psychology, but I got into 8 a.m. course my freshman year, which it may seem easy because you're in high school now, but when you get in college, like you can have classes late in the day and all that, and 8 a.m. was just hard for me. 8 a.m. was hard because I was more of I like to do things later in the day. And so, and then I had a teacher who was a native French speaker, and so her accent was super thick, and she's explaining these concepts that I had never heard before, and I'm like, I can't study psychology, I'm sorry. So I took that class though, but that book was my absolute favorite. I still have it to this day, I reference it, but psychology was absolutely my favorite.
Where you get your book at?
You can get my book right here on the table. You can get it on Amazon if you want it delivered to you. If you get it here today, I'll sign it for you.
Did God help you in your own journey?
Absolutely. And I'll say this, I am not a Christian, but I do have God in my life. God in my life. Yes, he has helped me through every up, down, all of it. He has helped me through all of it. And so y'all lean into your faith. Faith is gonna be that light at the end of the tunnel when you feel like everything is dark. And you're gonna need somebody, right? You're gonna need that. So yes, absolutely. I think if I didn't have any guiding principles, if I didn't have any direction in life, I could have easily gone left. Because all I knew was everybody in my family, right? They were selling drugs. They were part of gangs. We all shared the same colors. That life was what I knew. If I didn't set goals for myself and think and sit down for myself to say, hey, where do I want this to go? Then I probably would have went that way. Yes, ma'am. Great question. If I were to make a second book, what would it be about? I'm working on that right now. I'm working on a couple things. I'm working on a children's book because, that book is meant for an older audience, but a children's book with the same kind of concepts and principles would be in that. So something similar but for a younger audience. And then another book that I'm currently working on is called The Process of Perseverance, Turning Pain into Peace. So that process that I told y'all about at the end, working on that one.
How do your wife feel about your job?
She loves it. She loves that I'm able to inspire people. I sent her a video from yesterday of at Coolston High, and she's like, I got chills watching that. And so she loves that I get to do what I do, what I'm passionate about, because she saw me right there. She saw me at the top of success. That's another thing. Redefine success for you. The world is gonna tell you what success is, and success may not look the same for everybody. So she loves it because she saw me at my lowest, and she's seeing me when I'm enthused and energetic with all the things that I'm doing now.
Did your wife go to school with you
As a kid? No, not as a kid, but she did go to college. So we met in college. We met when I was a junior at Vanderbilt, and she was a senior. And so, yeah, and she was actually the one who introduced me to that adverse childhood experiences study because we're talking and sharing stories, and she's just like, she's a pediatrician now, so she's a doctor, and she was looking at me like, this is the things that you just told me about, the things that you are so flippant and you have normalized in your life, seeing kids die, you know, seeing domestic abuse, seeing, you know, drug use. You need to take a look at that. And I thank her so much, because without that, I would have never had that awareness that what I had gone through was actually harming me. Do you ever still feel like how I did it 2019? Not to that extent. Not to that extent. Trauma is something that I don't think you fully outgrow it. At least I'm still working through a lot of my trauma, but the deep and dark depression that I was in at that time, I have not experienced that since. There are days for sure that I'm like, I don't want to get out of bed. Sometimes I'm just like, man, I have thoughts and I'm like, why are they still so negative? And I'm aware of those now. And I see that as a form of healing, right? Being aware of them, because sometimes you go through life and you're not even aware of that stuff. So now I have the awareness around it. And the thing where I also see my healing is that the big, you know, ranges of emotion from being super sad, I don't get super sad anymore. I don't get to that level. It's sad and it's mad and it's down here, but it's not as deep as it used to be, and it doesn't last as long as it used to, right? I could hold on to a grudge for months and months back in the day. 3 hours, man, let that thing pass. So I see that as a form of healing. What do I do with the money I make? Great question. No, that's a great question. That's an absolutely fantastic question. That's a fantastic question. One thing that I do with the money, I give a portion of my money back to nonprofits. I support local nonprofits in my area. I support nonprofits that promote well-being for young people in particular. And I also, something that I think that I wouldn't have known to do with my money because of the work that I've been in over the years, is I invest it. Right? I don't just sit it in the bank. I don't put it, like what I used to do is roll it up, put it in a sock and throw it somewhere where nobody could hide it. That doesn't help me, right? I put it in investments, which means, you know, all the companies that you buy things from, usually they have something that you can invest in. You can buy part of their company. So I buy a part of their company. It may cost $5, it may cost $20, $50, $500, or whatever it may be. But I take portions of everything that I earn and I invest it, because that's how generational wealth is created, through investment. Me and my dad, so he was just listening to this song I played for my dad when I was 18 years old. I wrote a song. It was called Harder. And the song was about our relationship. And it said, at times life seems real hard, but you got to be harder. Don't give excuses. They don't go far. Just give me my father. And I talked a lot about how I felt about him at the time, because he had gotten out of prison when I graduated from high school, and we were starting to build this relationship, but he was still ripping and running. I was still seeing the back of his shirt. After playing that song, we became absolute best friends. But I told y'all, 2019 was a year. No. 2019 was a year. I don't have a relationship with my father. I love him to death, but I don't have a relationship with him.
Can you play your song?
Wow. I don't have it on me, but I'll sing a couple lines from it. Wow. I gotta think of it now, hold up. I know it was hard for you when you were locked up, but guess how hard it was for me without no pops. Just the other day, I was reading a letter that you wrote me. Said when you got out, you would be in my life. Guess you were joking. I find it crazy that you got all these chances to see me, Jared and Man too, but instead you spend time with Kiki. Yeah, you say you proud of me, but saying it ain't showing the opportunity of a lifetime, but you blowing it. They let you out, gave you a second chance, another opportunity to be a better man. Yeah, you gotta work to keep your head above water. All I'm asking is for you to be a better father. You ain't gotta buy me stuff every once in a while, because you don't have to spend money to spend time with your child. I guess you don't understand how us three feel. So in the song, I'm gonna help you by keeping it real. You wanted star athletes that make straight A's, but you didn't help us with the work or practice, no plays. You cried about that baby you had on the way. You know how that felt to us? Like a slap in the face. We right here, the best kids you could ever have. Why would you need anymore? Could you explain that? I guess I am trying to make you feel sad so you can realize what you got and not what you could have had. Thank you for that. One more question. I got 3 brothers and 1 sister, and we're like this. We are glue. We are glue, and they are the things that keep me going in life. I'm the oldest. I'm the oldest, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to stay in Nashville, because I was the oldest. I was the big brother to fatherless children. I wanted to be there as a big role model for them, and they recognize that, and they love and they support me through everything that I do, and I do the same right back in return. Would y'all have me back? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I was gonna ask you, how did you know you want to share all your trauma with everyone, like us at school?
It's hard, and I didn't know for a while, because anytime, like some of those stories that I tell now, I can tell them. Like saying that song, I never said that out loud, right? But telling the story and being vulnerable, I felt it give me a sense of healing. I wasn't carrying all that weight with me no more, and it didn't feel like I had to be ashamed about my story, because I sit up here and I see people, so many people have stories too. It may not be the exact same as mine, but it may be a different family member in their life, or it may be something. And so we are connected through story, and we build relationship and we build resilience for ourselves through story. And so much of it is wrapped in shame, but when I dropped that shame around it through therapy and understanding that my story wasn't bad, it was just my story, that's when I got comfortable with sharing it. Yeah. Thank y'all so much.